Hi, welcome to the new episode of Startup Strides. Today, my guest is Issy Greenslade. She's the co-founder of Structured AI. Welcome, Issy.
Great. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
No, I appreciate you making time for this. We have a few questions, to go through. I guess before I start to dive into the questions, I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself in your own words about your background, yourself to our viewers.
Yeah, cool. I just graduated from my degree at Oxford University doing economics and management. I did a short stint in investment banking and then also worked in venture capital all throughout uni since I was 19. So 2 days a week, remote slash in person at a firm in London. That's my background. And now I'm building structured AI.
One thing I'm curious about is that usually, people that go to Oxford or Imperial, UCL, the typical career paths people take, especially as at the very beginning, it's consulting, it's investment banking, sometimes in venture capital, which for you would have been open as well. Like anything you wanted, you could have pursued those paths too. But you decided to go down the entrepreneurship route, right? What made you pursue that?
It's so much more fun. I actually really enjoyed investment banking, but I think I enjoyed it because of the intensity. So you work super long hours, you have super tight deadlines, and you get that in a startup as well, but it's like you have more ownership of what you do. And like I'm building a startup with people who I like say are my like best friends. So I'm basically hanging out with my best friends all the time. And it's great. Venture capital, that's one of the reasons why I initially wanted to do a startup actually. Now it's turned into so much more, but I felt like a bit of a fraud, like telling people that their companies weren't worth investing in or they should come back when their company has more traction when I hadn't been a founder myself. And so I kind of wanted to give it a go for that and just fell in love with it. And I think I was completely right to think that because I look back at some of the like decisions I made or things I said going, "Oh, if I had the experience I had now, I probably wouldn't have said it quite how I said it." So I just think it's an amazing experience. You grow a lot faster, you're placed in so many more situations that are outside of your comfort zone. That's how I managed to, why I
That's
chose to go down this path.
That's really cool because I have a related question because you worked at Oxford Seed Fund too. You were leading some investments from there as well. I have a question about that. But before I ask that, I'm curious because based on what you said, do you think operational experience is necessary to be a good venture capital investor?
I think so, yes. Okay, maybe I'll qualify that. It's not necessary. Um, I'm sure there are amazing venture capital investors who don't have operator experience, but I think it's a plus. And I think it's a big plus. Yeah.
Fair. So tell me about Oxford Seed Fund. I've heard of it a lot to the people in the audience that are not familiar with it. What is it? What did you do there? And how that experience has shaped your thinking and I guess decisions in regards to your careers, your startup, etc.
So the way I describe it to the people over in the US is like the European version, a dorm room fund. It's this Oxford University's student-run fund. Historically, well, it's been around actually for quite a number of years, but it's previously been more of a society for MBAs, and the MBAs are given like 100K to invest in student startups over the year. Um, it's actually a funny story how I came to be involved in it. Me and actually my co-founder Raymond, I was working in VC in London, and there was a massive gap because it was an MBA fund, the Oxford Seed Fund. No undergraduates were getting funded, and we were like, there are so many smart undergraduates here. If we were in Stanford, if we're in Harvard, like these kids would be like getting money shoved at them. There's such a gap. So we basically tried to start our own student fund, our own undergraduate fund. And during second year of uni after I just quit to focus on my exams. So it was tense. But anyway, we got like, yeah, 200, 300K in like soft commitments. And it was just ended up being too much of a stress to get like a lawyer involved, set up an entity, etc. So we basically went to Oxford Science Enterprises, which has like over 1.5 billion assets in management, biggest venture capital investor in Oxford, and said, can you just give us the money and we'll invest it in undergraduates? And they're the biggest LP like partner of Oxford Seed Fund. So they were like, no, you should just merge with Oxford Seed Fund. And so that's how me and my co-founder became the youngest ever undergraduate directors of Oxford Seed Fund, and basically muscled our way into an MBA program. But then Oxford Science Enterprises gave Oxford Seed Fund 2.5 million to invest over the next couple of years. They hired like a full-time person to run it properly, because before it was a bit disjointed, as you know, like students come and leave. And so that was an incredible experience, because it was not only like being a director of a big fund with like, oh, not big fund, but for a student, obviously, but it was more like a startup, because full-time person had just come on. So this is Arif, who's running it great now. I think they're gearing up to do a larger fundraise. It was like a startup, because we had to start everything from the beginning. We had to set up our CRM. We had to set up like how investor calls would work. And it was really fun. And I probably spent more time on that than I did my actual VC job that I used to get paid for. So yeah, that was an amazing experience. And how it shaped going forward and my choices going forward, it definitely pushed me to the entrepreneurship path more. It got me more involved in the Oxford ecosystem, which is the Oxford ecosystem. You just need to know where to look, but there is like stuff there increasingly for entrepreneurship. And I got a much better working relationship with my now co-founder, Raymond, which now turned into this. And yeah, it was an amazing experience. And I was very lucky to be able to be a part of it.
Being so entrenched in the Oxford ecosystem, is there something unique about it compared to other ecosystems?
I mean, I'm slightly biased because I haven't spent much time in other ecosystems. I was only in London for a few months, really, and I've only been in SF for like just over a month. Oxford has, comparing it to the US big universities, it's a lot more fragmented. So places like MIT, Stanford, they will have like one, from what I've heard, they'll have like one big entrepreneurship society, one big hub. Whereas in Oxford, there are about 10 different student societies, but some more MBA focused, some more PhD focused, some more undergrad focused, one focused on founder talks, one focused on venture capital. And like it's a bit more of a maze. I think they're starting to consolidate a bit more, but it was a little bit of a maze. And I think, yeah, it needs to be consolidated slightly. And I think they are taking measures to do that. There's also less capital, I'd say, than there is still capital available, but less so than like over in America. It's got a reputation, I'm not going to say it in my own words, but it's got a reputation in Oxford that there's a lot of people that say they're interested in entrepreneurship, but don't actually then build something. Like they say they're interested, they go to talks, but don't just get on and build it. But like I met some amazing people at Oxford. Fun story, my flatmate at the time in my second year of uni, he got into Y Combinator in our second year, and now I'm over here with him. So like I saw him last night, him and his girlfriend, who also came over here and is part of the company. So like he took me to my first entrepreneurship talk ever in what was then the Foundry at Oxford, which turned out to be Tom Blomfield speaking. And now he's my group partner at YC. So it's like full circle moment.
Wow. Like
Yeah.
everything's connected.
Yeah.
I guess let's bring it back to your current venture, which is structured AI, right? What problem are you guys trying to solve?
So design engineers, so mechanical, electrical, structural engineers, spend like up to 30% or even over 30% of their time on just like manual documentation, reports, formatting drawings, making sure the title blocks are all spelled correctly, and stuff like that just isn't part of their jobs. So that's what we've been trying to eradicate, essentially, or help them with. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
How did the idea come about, you and your co-founders? Actually, I'm also curious, how do you meet your co-founders? Because one of them, you said, has been a close friend for a while now, but I believe there are 3 co-founders, right?
Yeah. So one of them has been a close friend for a while now, Raymond. The other one, Brandon, he's a couple years older than us, but still went to Oxford. And Raymond met him, I think, in last year at a Oxford AI Society get together. And then he introduced me to Brandon. Yeah.
One thing is I feel like because of the AI hype, there's a lot of kind of pursuing this super sexy, crazy ideas, drug discovery, the AGI, et cetera, et cetera. I do believe personally that most of the meaningful innovations happen in kind of this boring or unsexy sectors. It depends on who you ask, right? I guess I'm curious, what made you guys, three young co-founders, go after such a niche technical problem? Like, how do you guys even figure out that this is the problem to go after?
Brandon should be here to talk about this because it's a really cool story on his end, actually. But he's been contracting in the design, engineering, construction space since he was like 17. He basically used to want to be a YouTube star, and he uploaded some videos to his YouTube channel of him teaching using machine learning algorithms jets to bomb a tank in like a game scenario or something. And some guy over in the US saw this and was like, we can use this technology to build houses. And he was like, what the hell? And basically they employed him to use his machine learning algorithms to rearrange pipes. So like if you rearrange pipes in a more optimal way, you can push the ceiling up higher, which is obviously better. And anyway, so he was doing that type of work all throughout uni, contracting abroad. And then after he left uni, he did a stint at ChromaDB in San Francisco, but he also basically pitched some of these companies that he used to work for on building them in-house AI tools, like starting off as things like chatbots, ending up with things like document generation, and some of the stuff we're doing are like similar to what we're doing now. They were like, yeah, great. So we did that for like a year. When we all came together and he was like, yeah, I've just been working on this thing, me and Ray were like, that sounds awesome. Like if this firm is loving it so much and it's going so well, surely the rest of the industry will want it as well. And we just took that thesis, ran with it, and we basically just came to the US, went to a bunch of conferences, like anything that had construction technology, engineering technology, etc., and just talked to as many people as possible to validate that hypothesis that it would be useful in that market. Had lots of people coming to us saying, yes, this is useful. Like, I need to ingrain AI, but I don't know where to start. And yes, we decided it was a good hypothesis and ran with it.
That's really cool. And I feel like it's such a conservative niche sort of space, right? Like I'm sure there's a lot of compliance, legacy workflows, and I'm guessing that would lead to resistance, to certain resistance to change. And when you see three young people coming up and being like, okay, there's a better new way, tech way of doing it, how do you approach it? How do you navigate this kind of approach, and you're finding that approach to drive adoption, to drive interest?
Yeah, completely. I mean, honestly, we've come into the industry at the right time. Like,
Mhm.
I think there has been an inflection point where everyone and their mum are using ChatGPT. Like, they know change is coming. And so there is a lot more openness to, okay, I need to start thinking about this. Like, can you help me with that? And I think we're very upfront with the fact that, so Brandon obviously worked in a like MEP, a big mechanical electrical engineering firm for a while, but we're very upfront with the fact that me and Raymond, we are the tech experts. Like we are the like AI experts. We're not coming in and telling you how to run your business or telling you how to do the actual engineering part. We're just trying to help you with that on the tech side. I think historically there have been a couple of companies who've come in and been like, this stupid legacy industry needs to change everything. Like we're the young tech wizards who are going to come in and change it for the better. And we're just like completely steering away from that, which I think is good, which makes it easier. But also, if you just look at the industry as a whole, it's definitely going through an inflection point because, for example, take the number of companies in the ENR top 500, which is like top design engineering firms in the US. The percentage of them that have in-house innovation teams and in-house innovation budgets has gone up in the last like 3 years, from I'm not sure these are correct numbers, but it's something like 25 to 70%, or like massively the amount of people who have actual budgets for this innovation type activities and pilots.
So
So yeah, I mean, it's been really good actually. We've gotten some really good reception.
there is a demand for a new solution essentially in the market. But I am assuming, and this is my assumption, correct me if I'm wrong, design engineering is something you are, yeah, while you were at Oxford, I'm guessing, too familiar with the space, so you had to catch up a lot. You had to do a lot of like learning and studying while also building the company. How did you navigate that? How are you navigating that right now?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember just Yeah, the design engineering, construction tech, the entire world, it was very new to me when we first started, but I just like completely immersed myself. Like, okay, for example, there's a podcast that I really like called Bricks and Bytes that's about construction tech. And I remember I was like driving up to see one of my friends, and I had another of my friends in the car, and I made her listen to this construction tech podcast like on the motorway for like 8 hours straight. Like just, and I was like, I'm so sorry, Safi, I'm gonna make you listen to this because I just need to catch up. So yeah, 100%. Like there was a learning curve, and I especially a lot of the stuff we build for, I just want to be able to understand it so that we can build the best thing possible. So yeah, I will be up late at night like reading building codes and stuff like that, but it is genuinely really interesting. Like most of the people who do design engineering are incredibly smart people, and that's our entire reason why we want to do this, is to free them up to spend their time on more high value things. But yeah, it was, and also the way we started out was more, and we're still doing a bit of this, is talking to design engineering firms, C-suites, and being like, look, like what we've gotten in the swing of doing now is coming in, talking to a lot of the C-suite, talking to also your junior engineers and project leads, etc. Essentially auditing your workflows, as in, because every engineering firm is different. That's another thing I've realized. Every engineering firm is different. So once we have a hang of how you conduct your business, then we can say, okay, we've seen before that for firms like yours, if you put in the document drafting tool here, that will help massively. Or we can actually automate this part of the workflow within Revit, say, which is like a 3D modeling software. Then here is where you'll see the most value. And basically give them a report of all the automation / AI opportunities within their workflows. And then what they can then choose to do is either hire us to then build those out, or they just walk away with a report. And so that's very good because we get some insight into how like people run their businesses essentially, but also they get like a personalized report of where automation could be helpful.
That's fascinating. One thing you mentioned that caught my interest is that you said every firm is different. You know, YC's Paul Graham says do things that don't scale at the very beginning, right? But at some point you want to scale as a startup. That's the whole point of a startup. What are you guys doing? Like, can you do some things that will, even though firms are different and my regulations might be different, you know, the requirements might be different, can you still make it into some things that will scale and be applicable and, you know, generalize across so many firms?
100%. I think what I more meant was we're conducting ourselves more in like a, I'm sure you've heard of the forward deployed
Yes,
engineer
yes.
model, and sort of like, we're very much focusing on that type of thing where we will more ingrain within the company. And we do have like a set of building blocks that we've built out. I guess the building blocks that we built out are document generation, report, quality assurance, and QA, ensuring that your documents, so your design documents and also like specifications, your schedules on Excel or Revit, all of them are consistent with each other and also generating them. That's one of the things we've more fully built out. And then we're going on to the 2D drawings, which is more using stuff like computer vision. This is some of the stuff we're developing now. Computer vision using to check that like all of the exhausts are in the right place when the drawings, and like it's all up to building codes. And then also we've got another building block, which is that quality control in 3D modeling software. So in Revit, checking, say, like there's a lot of coordination that has to go on between the trades, so like mechanical and engineering, say, and we check that like there is coordination and someone hasn't made a last update to the model and not told somebody and it's messed up all the plans. So we've got all these building blocks that we've built out, but how that firm, say, conducts quality assurance and quality control checks might be different. So we'll come into the firm, listen to how they do things, and then deploy those building blocks in different ways and integrate them with the different systems that they use. Because like there are multiple different like ERPs and stuff like that that engineering firms use. So while it's definitely like scalable because we have those building blocks, it's just better to deploy them in a more bespoke way, at least at the moment.
The moment, fair enough. I noticed that when I looked at your profiles on LinkedIn, it says co-founder. Sometimes you see co-founder, CEO, CTO, but in your case, I think it's co-founder, co-founder, and co-founder. There is no specific.
We do have technical roles. And so Brandon is CTO, Raymond is CEO, and I'm COO. But I mean, we're such an early startup that we kind of share the responsibility and it's all like very flat. So
The reason I'm asking this is Because as you said, it's a very lean early stage. So you guys are doing everything, both technical and, sales and reaching out and etc. How do you balance everything out? How do you stay on top of things? How do you manage, your workflow to be able to divide and give enough attention to each part of your workflow?
Yeah, I definitely struggled this a little bit right at the start because our product was changing so rapidly. Like what we were doing week to week was changing so rapidly that I'm a person that always wants to like lay out a plan, like try and follow it A to B, and that was not working. Like every day we'd wake up and be like, okay, what are we working on today? This is not what we thought we were going to be working on, but let's do this. How do we manage it all? We don't really manage it. We just like we take things as they come, and we just want to be really nimble. And we do obviously have like we'll have breakfast together in the morning and be like, right, so what are we doing today? What are our priorities? And just double check those priorities of what aligned with what the rest of the group is doing. YC is pretty good in that they make you set outrageous targets like every 2 weeks. So we're kind of fixated on those KPIs and trying to get to them. So yeah.
I'm actually really curious about your wife's experience, but before that, um, you've known one of your co-founders for a while now. I think one thing you hear that a lot, finding a co-founder is like getting married, right? Like finding your partner. You have to be very careful because it's going to be a long game and you want to make sure it works. Now that you spend so much time with your co-founders and it's going well, what advice or like I guess thoughts and opinions you have on in terms of how to find a co-founder?
It's so hard. Like it's so hard. I got very, very lucky in that I met my co-founder at university. And I think especially so young and so like early on, it's harder to almost prove your worth to someone unless you've worked with them previously. I think, and just like that, you get on together, but like, yeah, I just got very lucky. Advice is hard. I've seen some people where they sort of take on a co-founder or they become co-founders with people just because everyone says they need a co-founder and it just hasn't worked out right. And like our group partner Gray, he was talking about how he was on like the opposite side of the US to his co-founder for a little bit, and it just didn't work, and they were sort of almost deluding themselves into thinking that it would work. Yeah, it's hard. Just try your best, meet as many people as possible. You never know what opportunities will come out from. Yeah, that's just number one advice in general, is take all opportunities. Like, even if you think people are a bit odd, they might be really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. You've been on the other side of the table where you were an investor, you were looking into companies being like, okay, is this worthy of an investment or not? Now you're on the other side. Not only you have to kind of sell the idea to investors, which you guys raised successful funding round, but also you have to sell it to the firms you work with. How's your philosophy on the sales change throughout time? How do you approach sales now?
I mean, how do we approach sales? So one thing has changed that I think of straight away is that when we first started sales, at least me, like my co-founder always complains that I'm way too British.
What does that mean?
Like it means I'm not as outrageous, I guess is a good word. But for example, I'd always be like, I don't want to ask like how much their budget is for this or like what they were going to spend on it. And it's something you need to ask. Like that's something that's definitely changed recently, is like always in the first call, oh, so like what's your budget like for this? Or like earlier on in the conversation. That's changed distinctly. Otherwise, as I said, because what we found useful for us is rather than trying to stuff a solution in their face, like, because we're not at the stage where we're just selling these building blocks. We're more like, okay, like we are the AI experts. We have these building blocks and we'll maybe like list them out. But we want to hear about you. We want to hear about your problems. We want to hear about your priorities. And I'm very much like, I think the YC actually told us that sales calls should be like 70% the other people talking, and you just like listening to their problems, at least early stage. That's my approach, is just to like hear their problems and like then come up with a solution that involves, or even like, okay, for example, some people, I've had it said to me before, like, you're an AI company, like, can you make me some AI meeting notes? And I'm like, that's not what we do. So I've like pointed them into granola or something like that. So yeah, more just like hearing their problems is my sales approach.
sort of being more outrageous and also focusing on their pain points as much as possible when you're trying to sell. AI has shifted the landscape quite a bit. I feel like it has lowered the barriers for entry. I mean, even with things like Lovable, you can create an MVP and very quickly. But I feel like competition has become much fiercer. As you mentioned before, yeah, I feel like now everybody and their mother is starting a startup in one way or another, right? How do you think AI has changed the entrepreneurship game for young founders today?
Oh my god, it changed it massively. I mean, it's more competitive in the way that like speed to market is faster. It's much easier to prototype, test out an idea. I think, oh, so much to say here.
Go ahead.
There's equally so much more opportunity for young, especially young founders, because I mean, like AI or okay, like LLMs and stuff weren't around like 10 years ago. Like no one's an expert in them yet. So if you're an early founder starting out, you have no massive disadvantage. And there's so much opportunity out there. Like some people say we're like in an AI bubble, and maybe we are. I've got no idea. But like there at the same time, there is so much opportunity. Like every industry is going to be changed by this somehow. I'd say that because of AI and speed to market and building being quicker, I love Claude Code. What that means is that other things become more important, like marketing, distribution, and yet really understanding the customer's pain points. As I said earlier, the way that you get a better product, especially for us, it's like a vertical product, is like really understanding the customers that you're selling to, really building for them and like getting domain knowledge, getting a data moat if you can, rather than just like something you can build in a day in Lovable that won't actually really they'll want to use. Yeah.
Speaking of marketing, I feel like building in public has become a very trendy thing lately. Maybe to me, I think Lovable might be the face of it, but I feel like there are a bunch of other companies that are doing it, that are constantly updating what they're doing, their products, etc., etc. What's your take on building in public?
I think it's great. I
Mm.
mean, yeah, if you can do it, if you're that type of person, like both my co-founders are incredible at that sort of thing. But when I first met Raymond at uni, he told me he wanted to become like a content creator.
Mhm.
And Brandon told me like earlier this year that he tried to drop out of Oxford University to become a TikTok creator
Wow.
in second year. Like that, yeah. I mean, we're a great team, but they're definitely better at like snapping photos, posting things. Ray loves the building in public trend. I think it's great. I'm just terrible at taking photos and I'm terrible at posting. Like I like barely use social media at all. But I love following people who do. Like there's a YC company from was it last batch or batch before went came back to London that I follow, and they like I think they post like every day, like Throxy, which I think is great. So yeah, I enjoy it as a consumer of that, and then I also think it does help you because we've been on a couple of sales calls or chasing up a couple leads where I thought the deal has died, and they've emailed us back and gone, saw you got into YC or saw your post that you went to this conference. Like, it sounds like lots is happening. We'd love to get on a call. And we got on a call once, and one of our potential leads was like, wow, you guys are doing so much. You seem to be building all the time, moving so fast, just from what he'd seen on LinkedIn. And like, we don't post every day, but I
Mm.
think that visibility is really good.
That's interesting. Do you think it helps from investor perspective?
Yeah, 100%. Um, yeah, I mean, even more than the like Europe, I'd say US investors are slightly more herd mentality. As in, like, if someone's really, really popular, they'll be like, oh my
Yeah,
God, I want them too. And hey, getting 1,000 LinkedIn likes on a post or something won't harm
that's
at all. Yeah, completely. Definitely.
fair enough. You guys moved to SF. You're part of the YC. I have questions. I have kind of two questions. One is about YC itself, but also one is more about the SF as a place, because everybody wants to go to SF. How's building there is different compared to UK or Europe? Is it really the place to be for early stage founders?
If you're raising your pre-seed, like early stage, especially like I can't speak so much to later rounds, but you are going to get a much better valuation here. And you are like, it's going to be much easier to find capital, and investors do like a lot less due diligence. And I think like companies in Europe are moving this way, but sometimes in the US it's like crazy. Like, yeah, you within like a few hours, I'll be like, yeah or no or whatever. So for capital raising, especially early stage, yes, come get over here. In terms of the actual building itself, there's less to do. Like, as in, like, I've a lot of more friends in London who I grew up with, etc. So when I'm in London, you're always being invited out to like a friends for drinks or dinner somewhere, or like there's a lot less of that in SF. And if you're building, there's a bit of a tech bubble. So you go to like a house party and all anyone will ask is like, so what are you building? Like, who are your investors? Are you a YC founder? So it can be a bit of a bubble, but equally you are definitely pushed a bit more than if you were outside that bubble, because you see everyone around you like succeeding, getting contracts, getting funding, and you're like, shit, I need to do that too.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a bit more intense, and there's less like drinking and going out in London, which is good for building a company. I think ultimately it depends who you're building with as well, rather than like, if you're in London and you're very incredibly like self-motivated, or you and your co-founders, so me and my co-founders live and work together, we like don't go to a different office, we just work from home. And so I'd say that we motivate each other just as much as like the external environment. So I think that makes a big difference as well, wherever you are. In terms of another thing, in terms of talent, I think there's great talent in like Europe and the UK. Yeah, this is, some people don't agree with me, but I honestly think like when everyone says, "Oh, the US is more ambitious," like sometimes for some people I slightly disagree. Like people in London and Europe just like to brag slightly less, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think there's amazing talent in both places, and it's definitely cheaper in Europe.
That's a very interesting perspectives, Izzy. How's YC been? Is it living up to the hype? What are the main takeaways, mindset shifts you've gained and gaining from it?
Yeah, it's good. It is good. I mean, I was lucky. I've had a couple friends who've been through it before, and yeah, you meet some incredible people. And I'd say that is the number one best thing about YC, is the people you meet. And whether that's your group partners or the other partners and just your other people in your batch, like just constantly inspiring you, and you'll just have a conversation as you grab lunch and be like, oh yeah, we're having this problem. And they'll be like, oh, we solved that last week. That's incredible. I think the advice is sometimes better when we're in the smaller groups, because I mean sometimes it's just so there are so many of us that can be quite generalized, and but like when we go to a group partner, say like Tom or Gray, like we have a problem, they've usually been able to give us very good advice and set us on the right path. Yeah, so it has lived up to the hype. I think like we're definitely glad we came, and we've definitely gotten a lot more visibility through it.
What advice would you give to other young aspiring founders that were once in your shoes, who might be listening and dreaming of starting something of their own?
Just do it. And especially like UK founders, I'm talking to specifically as well, like be outrageous. Like one we raised capital earlier, like our pre-seed before YC. We raised, I'd say, before I was comfortable going out and raising. I've spoken to other founders who've been like, no, I need to get more customers. I need to make the product more perfect before I launch the product or before I try and raise. Like the others are, again, this is my Britishness. Well, apparently to my co-founders it is. Like just be outrageous. Be like, no, I have confidence in yourself. I know that this is a good idea. I've got validation. Let's go out and raise funding. Or like, I should just talk to as many people as possible, even though the product isn't quite ready yet in my eyes. Even things like, I'd say talking to the average person in London who says that they're technical, or at least like, especially women, this is, who say they're technical, and versus someone in the US who says they're technical, I'd say there's much higher standards for calling yourself technical in the UK. And like a lot of people, that might be slightly controversial, but a lot of people, I think in the US, like have only sort of like vibe coded, and they'll call themselves technical. So
Interesting.
yeah, I mean, just be outrageous and be a bit more arrogant than you should be.
So more confidence and
More
more
confidence,
self-belief is the
and
key.
go for every opportunity. Like there's a stat that men go for 20 when they feel like 20% of the criteria for a job or something, and women only do if they do 80. Like just go for every single opportunity, and don't be afraid of failing.
Fair enough. Thank you so much for your time, for your interesting takes, and very, very wonderful insights. I really appreciate it.
Cool. Yeah, it was Yeah, great to be on here.